If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free, and you guessed it, it's free. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in just one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Pieces of a Nation. Today, we have a guest. His name is Clint Jung. And Jung. You know, I was gonna ask you too. I can't believe I forgot that. I'm sorry, man.
I'm not German. I'm Chinese American.
Well, Jung totally sounds Chinese American. Sorry about that. Yeah. Clint Jung, and in my opinion, this guy is one of the most extraordinary warriors that I know, and you'll find out through this interview. It's gonna be awesome. And just like to say hi and thank you for coming on the show, Clint.
My pleasure, Richard.
Yeah, man. Just to give the listeners a little background on how we met, I think it might have been like, I don't want to give our ages away, but...
you can give mine away. I'm fine with it.
Okay, cool. Well, it was maybe like 16 years ago, right?
Yeah.
We met at Trader Joe's. I was working at Trader Joe's. I was barely starting off as an actor, and you had come into my line. Mm-hmm. And I don't exactly remember what I had said to you, but what you told me was that everything I was thinking was completely wrong. And I thought, whoa, who is this guy? Right? I'm like, why is he telling me this? And you gave me this like one piece of advice, right? And the piece of advice was, you've got to keep going. Don't ever give up. Mm-hmm. And you know, after you left that day, I don't know what happened, but something shifted in my life. And at the time I was going through a major breakup. I was looking for myself in a way, and acting was such a new avenue for me. I didn't know how to grasp it, and those words of encouragement for me became essentially the cornerstone of how I run my life and my career today. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I mean, I saw something in you from just our interactions when you were working there, and so I just thought. And I'll say it now. Apologies for coming off so harsh, but I'm known to at times not have tact. The only good thing I could say about that is you always know where I'm coming from, and it's with the best of intentions. And I saw something in you, and I just didn't want you to waste time. At that time, I think when I talked to you, I had probably at least 15 years in, and one thing I do love is just seeing other people succeed, and giving them advice that I think is helpful to let them not go through some of the pitfalls I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. I mean, since we're going this route too, I just want to kind of share your background a little bit, right? So Clint here is an actor, right? He's been over 100 projects, right?
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough.
He's also a top-notch bodybuilder.
I was in the 80s.
Dude, you're pretty buff, man. You're pretty buff. It's amazing. He's also just like the nicest human being ever. Like, this guy's got the biggest heart ever. I mean, if everyone was here sitting at this round table that he literally has a round table. I feel like part of King Arthur's group right now, right? And if you can feel his heart, it's so amazing. Right?
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. So flash forward, just, because I know we've seen each other like in and out through the years,
yes.
right? But flash forward, I think it might have been like over a year or so. It's about maybe a couple months ago. Is that correct? Right. So I was like scanning through Facebook, and I saw a picture of Clint on Facebook, and he was in a hospital bed, and the lighting was amazing, and he was in this like form, and I just thought, wow, man, like this is a great like character. He's getting really, really into this character, and then I started reading more, and I realized, oh fuck, like I cannot believe like this is happening. I'm not going to do it justice, so I'm just going to hand this over to you to kind of like explain a little bit of the background.
Sure.
Yeah.
It was New Year's Eve. Excuse me. It was New Year's Eve of 2018, going into the new year, and I was feeling a little under the weather. It almost felt like flu-like symptoms, but I very rarely get sick, so I knew something was wrong because I could barely. I had shortness of breath, and I was bent over on my bed, and my wife was with me, and we were supposed to go to a New Year's Eve party, and there was no way. And I just said, listen, I think something's wrong. And she knows if I'm complaining or if I'm saying that there's something wrong. So we both decided, and on her insistence, that we go to the emergency. So we get to the emergency ward. She takes me to the emergency ward, which is very close to where I live. And the doctors take a look at me. They put me on the bed or the gurney or whatever, and come to find out, run a bunch of tests, take blood. And at that time, I'm feeling really bad. Well, all my organs were failing, and they couldn't figure out what it was. And I started going in and out of consciousness, and I could hear them muttering, if we don't get him out of this and get him to, Cedars Hospital, he may not make it. So, that was the beginning of this journey. And the reason why it's so strange, it's like a week before, or 2 weeks before, I'm a healthy young man. I'm boxing 5 times a week, training, and I feel like I'm in great shape, and by all outward appearances, I was. So to be knocked with this, and then be in the hospital, which I spent a 30-day stint at Cedars, was a real awakening for me, I could say. Awakening in many ways, and where some people may look at it as something like a setback, which I don't like to use that word, it was more an opportunity for me to learn about different parts of myself, about what makes me tick, about what's important to me. So it's been a journey, and I'm continuing on. I was in Cedars for 30 days. I came back February, the 2019, the very beginning of February, and have started my recovery and rehabilitation. That's going to be ongoing. So it's been an interesting ride, and yeah.
Wow. So I'm curious. From the moment you felt something, and obviously there was this. You talked about a slight murmur, right?
Yes.
And then waking up from the incident, right?
Yes.
Oh, by the way, it's essentially, just for the listeners, it's a type of cancer, leukemia.
Leukemia, yeah, and it also triggered something called HLH. These are and the leukemia is ALL. These are extremely rare cases, so, which was a good thing, because once I got into Cedars and had all the specialists looking at me, these specialists are geniuses, they're nerds. So they were so intrigued by how rare it was that they all got together and really wanted to brainstorm and figure this out, which was a blessing for me, because I had people, working on it, very intensely to try to, figure out what happened and how it may have happened.
It was a rare form of...
Extremely rare. So it's so rare that they said I maybe end up in a medical journal because of it. And it's like, there I go again, trying to get the limelight. No, I'm just kidding. No, but, so Richard, I'll go over a little bit like leading up to it too. So it's been an interesting year for me. So to get to where I am now, the 2018 was a great year as far as professional working and everything else. But in June of last year, I lost my father, who died right before his 90s. Well, not long, about a month before his 96th birthday. So that was very life changing. And one of the things that comes up for me most is I've spoken to other people who have lost their parents, so I'm not the only one who has lost a parent. But one of my friends, who's a dear friend, he said something very interesting to me. He lost his parents, and he said, yeah, now you're a member of the club. And I said, the club? He goes, and he said it with the utmost compassion. He said, yeah, you're a member of the club that has lost a parent or parents. and it's something that really can't be described in words. So now you know the feeling. And in that moment, I knew what he was saying. And we bonded over that particular moment because he hit it right on, you know. Like, I could say how much great my father was or anything else, but now I know the feeling, you know. It's almost like you're not an orphan, but, you know, you lost your parent. So you feel that there's that loss, but yet, you know, you keep going on, and you want to honor that too, and you want to honor the beautiful things about your memory of him. And if I'm going to be completely honest, my father, you know, passed away at 95, but for the last 10 years, he had dementia, and so he was slowly, you know, his memory was, you know, getting worse and worse. So the thing is, what I look back on in that instance of my life is my memory of my dad is before, pre. So all my thoughts, all my vision, all my memory, all my memories, but a lot of how I see him in my mind's eye is him before that set in. So, so when I lost my father, it was very sad, but then again, you know, I thought to myself, it hasn't been the man I knew for quite some time. So going from that, I had a very good year work-wise. It was very busy. Maybe it was put in my lap to be so I could be distracted. I don't know, but I was traveling a lot and working a lot. So I think I had a job in Chicago. Then I went to Pittsburgh to shoot something. Then I went to Vancouver and then Atlanta. But I started getting sick in Vancouver. And Vancouver was in October. So it wasn't long before I felt really ill. And I don't know. So what we were trying to figure out, or, you know, my wife and I, or the doctors as well, is where I may have picked up a virus somewhere. But I know that I was under a lot of stress traveling around and everything, and working, and that I was getting sick, but not sick. And I'm someone that doesn't get sick, really, truly. I know a lot of people say that, but truly I don't. So I got a stomach virus to start in Vancouver, but it lasted for a couple of weeks. And since I was working a lot, I was just taking Imodium and carrying stuff with me. So my immune system was definitely compromised. And we're trying to figure out, like, how I got to that point, New Year's Eve. But a week before, at Christmas time, I was going to travel back up north to spend time with family. And I was determined to get up there because it was the first Christmas without my dad, and the family wanted to get together. But I fell ill all of a sudden. It was flu-like symptoms. And I thought, okay, I got the flu. I got a flu shot this year, but I got the flu anyway. So I stayed home for Christmas. And then I started getting a little better, I guess, feeling a little better, to the point where I was thinking about going to a New Year's Eve party with my wife, Patty Saw. But then a day before, like, New Year's Eve, I started feeling ill again. And we called up my primary care doctor, and he said, well, who had seen me previously the week before, he said, well, if your symptoms persist and you get shortness of breath, make sure you get to the emergency. So that brings us up to New Year's Eve, where I had shortness of breath, and where Patty Saw decided to take me in. So once we got to the emergency and everything was going, my kidney functions were failing, my liver was failing, everything, you know, and I was just bloated, and it just happened so quickly. But the first week or week and a half, I was pretty much out of it, probably heavily sedated as well. And then I finally, you know, came to, and we, you know, understood what was happening. But even in my subconscious, something very interesting happened. Like I could hear the doctor saying, even at the emergency ward, if we don't get him out of here or get him to Cedars, he may not make it. That maybe sounds very scary for some people, but even in a haze, me hearing that, I had an overwhelming feeling, all I could say was somewhere in my chest, where the second I heard that, I wasn't scared because I knew that I wasn't not going to make it. So whatever that feeling was, and it was like a glowing feeling, I can't describe it. I knew I was going to be okay. And how I defined that was maybe I have something to say. Maybe there's some information to share, and that's why I'm going to make it. So there was no fear in oh no, so it's been an interesting journey from that point on. My perspective of not just my life, but life in general, what's important to me, and what I could just let fly by the wayside. And I'll be completely honest, because that's just who I am. Like with my relationship with my wife, Patty Saw, we had some issues going into this space of, right before I got sick, we were dealing with some issues, in our relationship. Well, things like this shake you to the core to make you absolutely understand and realize what's important. And I must say that without her, I may not have made it. There was a drive and a love that overcame, that just pushed whatever we thought we may be doubting in a relationship out, and just there's a love now and I think I could speak for her, that is beyond anything we've ever experienced. So it's actually made us grow so much closer, and I appreciate her so much more. Not that I didn't before, but this is a whole different level. I understand that, I'm here and I'm doing as good as I am because she is by my side. Yeah, so that was a beautiful thing about, one of the many beautiful things about what happened to me. Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to lie. You probably almost brought me to the verge of tears several times. I was like, oh my God, I can't cry right now, man. No, seriously. Wow. I can definitely feel the energy and the light, the shifts that you were sharing, right? Yeah. From what I'm hearing is, it's almost like you went through this metamorphosis.
Yeah.
Right? The shifting and the shedding of an old self into the new, in a way, right? Mm-hmm. And I find that extremely fascinating. So in that sort of, the only word that can pop up is a quantum leap. So in that quantum leap that was happening, what you mentioned that you didn't have the fear. Mm-hmm. You felt this glow. What I would like to know is that through that process, so what was going on through your mind?
That it happened for a reason, I know that's odd, may sound odd, but okay, so I think it's just part of my makeup, psychological maybe, or whatever, my upbringing, my belief system since I've been a little kid. Not why did this happen to me, but it happened for, I never asked why did this happen to me. I accepted what was happening, and just being accepting of what was happening and not saying why. And you could say why in a questioning, why, maybe because, but not why as a victim. I never thought of myself as being a victim of something, because I think it's a spiral, and it's just like I said, it's part of my psychological makeup and how I've dealt with things in the past. It's not that I don't acknowledge it, but I do accept it. But if you say, why did this happen to me? And you go that way, it's a spiral downwards, I think, because like I said, you're putting yourself in a victim position, and you're not accepting to a certain degree what has happened. To a certain degree, you're resisting because you are asking, why me? Instead of saying, why did this happen to me? Like,
almost like the wonder of it.
Yes. Why? I'm not, I'm a healthy individual. Like, why did this happen to me? And I'm saying it with a smile because that's kind of how I went about it. I accepted, oh, okay, so this is what's happening to me. And from that point, the acceptance of that allowed me to have a jumping point to move forward rather than coming from below, saying why, and trying to find my way back up to that starting point of healing. So, yeah, so the second I heard a lot of the diagnosis, I would be lying to say it's not scary. When you hear things like that, you process, you go, oh, that's what I have to deal with. Okay. But there's that. It's not like, oh no, what if, again. So what it comes down to is attitude a lot, attitude is everything. And then I started hearing it from the doctors and the nurses. They saying, first of all, they were telling me, and I was appreciative that I had a great attitude and you're going to be fine. So they're almost like sure of it as well. But they said it, like a lot of the doctors told me, it is the people that go in with a certain attitude that it's almost you're defeated before you begin. And that usually pass, or that usually succumb to the illness. And I think they were talking about, they were generalizing about illness in general. It's, your attitude towards it. Not to say that, there's people that are terminally ill. But still, in my eyes, if you're terminally ill and, God bless them, but you might as well have a good attitude about that going into whatever is next for us.
It's like the appreciation of the next movement.
Yeah.
In a way, right?
Yeah.
Instead of standing there and being in fear and already succumbing mentally to defeat.
Yes.
Right? It's in a way, it's almost like that moment for you was like you were standing up and facing whatever darkness that was, right? Mm-hmm. And saying, I'm going to defeat you.
Yeah.
Right? And then you came out of that.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's a good way to describe it. And then plus, like I said, I couldn't help but to feel that there was information that I could get out there that could be helpful to a lot of people, and you don't have to be ill, like physically ill, and it to be more broad about it. It's just like, stuff happens to us, bad stuff happens to us, and I've always said this is one of my things is it's easy to be happy and feeling on top of the world when things are going okay, but it's how we handle the adversity in our lives that shows us. It mirrors our true character, and it shows us if you could handle the adversity, then the rest of your life is going to be a piece of cake, kind of, Right. You won't sweat so much the small stuff. So there were a lot of lessons, like because like I said before going in, things were going, quote unquote, from all appearances, seemed to be great, but I couldn't help but to think that there was just so much more, and so many lessons to what happened. So I decided, and it was a decision to make. I decided to make something what many would call a negative into something positive. And even though still in recovery and I'm on a lot of medications and we're not done with the chemo and all that, and I'm doing that daily, I find I'm having a good time, which is very strange. I'm having a good time. I'm having, I also can't not talk about the love and support that I've had from like so many people, from my artist acting community, from my childhood friends, which I think is amazing because I just don't think we build those relationships anymore. I grew up in San Francisco in the Sunset District, which when I grew up in the 60s and 70s mainly was a Irish middle-class neighborhood, working-class neighborhood. Those friends that I've met 40 and some of them 50 years ago, so you know how old I am now, but have reached out, have gone and visited my mom for me because they're still up in the Bay Area, have just come down and visited. It's been amazing, and I'm overwhelmed by the outpouring and love that I had from people that have known me for 40 plus years. And I think that it's a beautiful thing because I think it's something that's lacking nowadays is, strong bonds and relationships. Yeah.
Well, you definitely have a lot of people rooting for you, number one, and who love you. I think your story, through this process is will encourage many, many people, if not just today, but for generations, right? Yeah. I mean, you're right. It's really an attitude of I know it sounds a little cliche, but there's an attitude of gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also the attitude of a fighting spirit, right? Mm-hmm. And in order to look, man, I mean, we all deal with our own shit, right? Mm-hmm. We have our own stuff. But the question is, it's like, how do you handle it? So I just have to say, like, this experience from what I'm hearing, right, is such, in a way, it's like almost like a twofold, right? Like, at one point it was just so drastic, but another point is just like so beneficial in a way, right? Which really leads me to this next part of the question is, when you woke up, you might have sort of touched on this a little bit, but I'd really like to hear the point of like the first like maybe week or so, right? Mm-hmm. You woke up in hospital and this completely, in a way, transformed, but you weren't sure like what was going on in a way, right? Mm-hmm. Can you explain that?
Yeah, it's funny that we're talking about that. First week, like I said, was I was not fully conscious, so I went from the emergency ward to the ICU at Cedars, same night or whatever, and from that point on, I was everything was failing, and they had me hooked up in tubes in me, and it was almost like a dream, like a semi-conscious state of awareness. I could hear mutterings and stuff in the background. Once I remember, or a couple times, a couple doctors had come in to see me, to talk to me, but I remember one she looked like an alien, and I was just, but I wasn't like scared or taken back. I was just looking at it kind of puzzled, like, wow, like medicine's gone to a whole nother level now,
Right.
Yeah, we're getting assistance from outside forces. And I remember my first, while I was still that first week, I had a bone marrow biopsy. Mm. And it's not a real big deal, but I was kind of out of it, and I was laying down, and for some reason while they were doing that, I had this imagination that I was in a video game, and I was actually like healing myself through this video. It was very strange. So, there were like these semi states of consciousness that I had. I remember the early visitors. My brother came up from San Diego, my oldest brother, and I remember talking to him, but what I was telling him was like, yeah, you know, I'm under great care. Don't worry, this is state-of-the-art stuff. I've never seen anything like it. And, you know, like I was just rambling because I thought like I was healing myself through this. It was very strange. I can't fully explain it, but I know he was concerned because at that point, you know, I had gone in and, you know, I was, like I said, I was a very fit 170-something pound male, 172-pound male. And by the time the first week came around, I had dropped to 140.
Right.
And it's because my body was eating itself up. It was, you know, it was attacking the bad cells and stuff, but it was also eating all the good stuff too. So I didn't look anything like, you know, I looked pretty frail, so I know my brother was taken back a bit. But, you know, afterwards, he knew that I was going to be okay, I think. Yeah.
I definitely subscribe to that. Yeah. The ethereal world, if you will. I remember when my grandfather, right before he passed away, he had just sort of mumbled something like, he had said like he had a dream telling him it's time, and we were like, nah, dude, you're gonna make it, man. You're gonna make it, man. You know. And then the next morning we came in, and you know he passed. So I absolutely 100% believe and subscribe to the energies and the lights of protective forces, and I would have to call it maybe sort of messages, yes, right? That each of us sort of like transmit, right, and take in, right, at the same time. So yes, whatever video game you were in, right, yeah. Dude, it could have possibly been like going,
absolutely,
right,
absolutely. That's the thing. It's like, you know, I mean, it goes back to that age-old question: are we living in our dream now? Yeah. You know, and what is, you know, so, but, you know, I use that phrase and term kind of lightly, you know, the hallucination, but, you know, I don't know if there was information in that, those visions or whatever, you know,
right, that
I could use. All I know is that, you know, I did, you know, once I started getting really conscious about what was going on and everything, that I wouldn't discount anything of the experience in what I would call my not completely conscious state, you know. One of the things, though, that when I did get out, it was instantly, it's just crazy, but my mind went into recovery, like, okay, let's start now, you know. And that was like to the point where, yeah, I got up once too fast and, you know, dropped down again. I was using a walker to walk up and down the halls, but then by the next week I was doing laps around the thing. I was determined to just get back, and it's almost not because to prove anything, which people, you know, I know people think like, you know, you don't have to prove anything. No, it wasn't. It was to get back, to get into the groove again, because I felt I haven't pinpointed it yet, but the information that I have to put out there could be very valuable to people, and I just wanted to get back on that road, so I had my health to be able to do that. So there was a lot of driving forces, you know, and definitely for my wife, I think, you know, we've redefined a lot of our relationship, and where, you know, I'm not going to be so married to my work. My work will be there always, I think. So we need to, like, we agreed to take more trips, and if it's even weekend excursions, which, you know, as you know, Richard, doing what we do in the entertainment business, sometimes, you know, I shouldn't say we. Sometimes I don't take the time to go away because I may miss out on something or something like that, when basically what I'm just missing out on life in general, because I think I have to have the faith, and especially by now, at this point in my career, that jobs come and go, you know, and there'll be something else, and not worried that it's going to be the last thing, you know.
But I think as an actor, you know, it's one of our fears is is this the last thing? Right?
Yeah.
You know, is this the last thing? And I can totally understand that, you know, which was, you know, if I can share just a little bit, which was why I took 3 years off of acting. I took a major hiatus, right? I needed to get my head straight.
Yeah.
I was slightly mentally jaded in a way, in terms of ego. And I just didn't know why I was doing it anymore, to be honest with you. I had no idea, you know? And so I stopped. I said, you know what? I can't do this anymore, you know? So slowly but surely, I was sort of going through this, like, you know, transformation, and I was drinking a lot.
Yeah.
I was
been there.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think we all
drinking
have,
and drugs for me. Yeah,
same here, man.
Yeah.
Drugs, falling into that pitfall, right? Arguing with my wife. We, you know, it was crazy because we were at the verge of crossroads, essentially, of whether we wanted to stay together or not, right? And I was completely unhappy. I got into depression. Like, my depression would last maybe like anywhere between 7 days to 3 weeks, right? Dark clouds, man, like looming, right? And I was not happy. And I just thought, like acting is driving me crazy because I was just putting all my eggs in one basket. And so when I decided to shift that, there came the next struggle. The next struggle was like, well, I've been focusing on putting so much energy into this, I don't even remember how to do anything else. And so the struggle was really just finding different facets of my heart. And then one of my friends, you know, he told me, he's all, look, man, you know, he's all, I know what you're going through. He's all, but you got to embrace the struggle. And I didn't understand what he said, meant by that, but step by step, after really just trying to digest what he said, embracing the struggle, what does that mean? And he was like, this is never going to happen again. And so looking back, embracing the struggle to me means, look, if you're going through an obstacle, why not, like you said, have that attitude of breaking through? Are you going to look back a year, 5 years, 10 years from now and go, I really sucked with my attitude, even though I broke through, or I really joyfully broke through?
Yes.
Right? So what does the definition of empowerment mean to you?
The definition of empowerment is taking responsibility for what you say and what you do. I think that's one way I could put it. You know, taking responsibility for how you go about your life in general. I think,
What's the next step in your life right now? Like, what do you?
My thing now. Okay, so beyond, you know. Okay, so I just went to a screening yesterday of a film I did. And I saw all my castmates. The director, who is a friend too, wonderful film too, and it was great seeing everybody. But so there's that whole thing of my life, and it was good to get out. But right now, the main goal is to get well, get healthy, the work, like I said, everything. I just want to get healthy, and along that journey of getting healthy, I think there's going to be a lot of seeds coming up and information that I would like to share, and that I try to share, with the public in general. I think there's some great information there. Yeah, that's my main goal right now, is to get healthy, to fully recover from what I'm dealing with right now. And I think the rest of my life will fall into place, or will not. But I deal with that when it arises. I mean, it's about being dealing with my life moment to moment, and not projecting too far ahead, or not dwelling on what has happened. So I don't know. I think, it's interesting. It's a very fine balance, because, as you know, what we do as artists and in the entertainment business, it can be very obsessive, to the point of where it's not healthy, and and I see it in a lot of people sometimes, you know, and yeah, there's so much more to life. Yeah.
I think Pat Sajak once said, you know, that, you know, he has like 7 or 8 projects happening all at once, right? Because he said, if I were to do, was it Wheel of Fortune that he does? If I were to just put everything in Wheel of Fortune, right, it would drive him nuts, right?
Yeah.
So he has like a bunch of like talk shows about baseball and all these different facets of stuff. So,
you know, and it's interesting because I think also, you know, going back to the work, when I say the work, you know, the art of acting, I think this quote unquote something that may have been perceived as, oh, you know, man, it's unfortunate Clint had to deal with it, but I also see it as it cracking open a piece of me too that will even help my artistry, because I think my perspective on, I've always thought I've had a healthy perspective on the human condition, but this has forced me into new levels of even empathy and everything else, you know, because I think one of the things I had relayed is going from a, you know, very fit, a guy that never felt like feels safe in the world, to a very frail 140 pounds. I woke up in a body that was not mine, and that took some adjusting, you know, like, and then just the feeling that very foreign feeling of feeling frail and very vulnerable, physically and emotionally too, but physically, which was just something that was completely foreign to me. I've always been strong, you know, and like, you know, and it's, you know, I mean, it's just a part of who I am, you know, like for years, you know, between martial arts, boxing, bodybuilding, you know, all of that stuff. I've never had the opportunity to understand what it, frailness, like what that was. So it was very interesting to experience that. Yeah. So I think it's going to help. It's going to bring out different layers in my work coming up, well, you know, for the future work that I do, which is always going to be great. I mean, we're always looking to expand our knowledge or, emotional intelligence. You know, I think it's always, especially for artists, we're always looking for, you know, the depth of everything. And this has allowed me the opportunity to put on my oxygen tanks and go a little deeper. Yeah. It's interesting. I think my wife is a little concerned because she saw that a couple weeks ago I actually got a hold of my reps and said, you know, I think I'm ready to go back out there again, and just know that I'm bald now. So, and her concern is that my focus will be taken away from my recovery and just getting well. And because she knows from living with me for almost 15 years that how obsessive, you know, it is to be in the entertainment business. Yeah. So, but I assured her I think I have my priorities straight. It's get well and be that great husband, and, you know, really make her happy too, because I it's not like I feel like I owe it to her, but it's what I want to do, you know. She's come through in flying colors for me through this whole thing, and like I said right before, we were having, you know, problems as well. So I want to at least give back, and I want to give back. So I trying to reassure that I won't go down that obsessive road again. And then it also makes me question, you know, like a lot of times, like what we're doing it for, you know, like why is there such this drive? Like, who are we proving it to? Thank God I had parents, and I was such a wayward kid growing up, and I got in a lot of trouble that I think they were just grateful. They weren't worried about me getting 4.0s and going to the best college. They were just happy that I didn't end up in jail. And that's the God's honest truth. Like any road, but some of the roads that I was on would have been good as long as, because they would know I'm at least safe and alive. So I thank God I didn't have that burden of trying to prove to my parents that I made the wrong choice. I've kind of been a rebel since I was a kid anyway. I have 3 other siblings. Me and my next brother up were troublemakers, and the oldest 2, my sister and my brother, were the ones that followed the rules. Yeah. So, I think that's a question that we have to ask ourselves as artists, like, who are we proving this to? I mean, all of us as artists, we all know that actors are needy, and we are. Like, we need approval. We need, of some kind. But I think one of the traps about what we do is, especially nowadays, is seeking that fame and fortune. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't buy into it too, at one time. But I know better now, I would like to think I know better now. I during that process of wanting to chase that, I found how much I actually do love what we do as actors, and the more you work, the better you get. But fame is a funny thing, like I see so many people wanting it, and especially in our society now, what's up here, within 2 weeks, everybody forgets anyway. We move that fast.
Right.
And if you're like going for that and you are like super high and you made it, quote unquote, made it, what happens when you're not it anymore? Then who are you? And then what are you going for next? More of that, a resurgence of that, what you had. So I think you just got to find your balance of what you want and what makes you happy. And that's a big one, what makes you happy? I have a mentor friend of mine. He's older. He's in Virginia Beach right now. And he said something very wise to me years ago in like the 90s, I think. He just said, just ask yourself at any given time, am I happy? And just don't think about the question. You just say whether yes or no. It's yes or no. And if it's yes, then like, okay, the life is good. I think I'm doing okay. But if it comes up, no, I'm not satisfied or whatever, figure it out why, and try to. And it's such a simple question and such a simple way to go about one's life, but yet, we muddle it up with all kinds of crap.
Who doesn't want the fame? There's a certain mentality that we have sort of had this like foundation in a way, right?
Yes.
Whether it's you're a kid and you want a certain type of attention from your family,
yes.
right? It's crazy how when we think about why are we actually doing this, don't know how true this is a lot of times where I'm doing it for this person or that person. But one thing for sure that I've come to realize within when I made the decision to come back December 2018, right, was that I'm doing it for my son, right? I'm doing it for posterity, right? Yeah. And that felt like a whole different drive. I booked a project, and that was the first project since I started acting 16 years ago that I actually felt good and comfortable and loose.
Yes.
Right? And that was like the joy of acting. I just thought, wow, this is what it feels like to act again, right? But anyway, I'm sort of...
No, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Because it's so counterintuitive, like that feeling of looseness and comfort. That's what I call you're in that zone. And it's kind of counter to the situation they throw you in.
Yeah.
You have hundreds of people all around. Everything's like, okay, let's get this done. Like nothing's about the art in general. It's about, producing, getting productivity,
Right.
So, but when you could do that and be that loose and, and have a good time
yeah,
and play,
yeah,
then that's when it all falls into place.
Yeah.
And you know what? Just not give a fuck as much,
Right.
Walking into those rooms, people don't, and it's hard for people that aren't in the industry to understand, but walking in those rooms, there's so much crap talk on, like that's like, oh, I have to memorize this, and if I get this might lead to this, and all these, things to pull you out of the moment. So you're just like this shaking, nervous mess in there, But if you just don't give a fuck, and then I tell people this I tell a lot of younger actors this all the time, like, especially, I find it, and I might get flack for this, especially with a lot of Asian actors, they want to get everything word perfect because it's part of that 4.0 mentality. Yes. And you've got to get it right, do it right, If you just know what you're doing and like in the scene, and you go off words, and I've gone off, and I'll improv my way back to where I think I know. And if they're on board to play, they're on board to play the reader. But just not caring so much, and trying to get it perfect instead of just bringing yourself in there. Yeah.
The looseness in itself, right, of just being who you are in that moment. Right, rather than having a preconceived idea of who you want to present yourself in that moment, that's what f's people up, right? All the time, right? Yeah. Because it traps you into that box, and you go, how do I get out of this now? But because we're so focused on that, I've definitely been through plenty of those. Man.
Yeah, we all have. So that's how I could talk about it, is because I've been there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think there just became a point of I got sick and tired of being sick and tired of doing that thing, like getting it quote unquote right.
Yeah. The contribution to society, I feel like is extremely important, right?
Yes.
Let's flash forward a little bit. Is that cool?
Mm-hmm.
Let's flash forward about 15 years from now.
Uh-huh.
What, in your mind, would you like to have contributed within that span of time?
I don't know if I could pinpoint it into a specific thing, it's hard because definitely it's about contribution, and value. That's very important to me. But what I found, and I'll say this only because I have to bring it back, because what I found through this process is a lot of the people that have reached out to me and stuff, some people have said some really kind stuff like, I saw you, I don't know you well, and but I've seen you in a room or something, and I noticed you did this, and that really stuck with me. And then they ended up coming to my house to visit with me and stuff. So I think I don't think it's a specific thing. I think, and you know what was so beautiful about that is not with my friends from 40 years ago saying, things like, well, the reason why we're still in contact, it just shows you, the quality of, what you've left, or, just all these little things that have been happening lately add up to me that it was like I've even up to this point that it's been a life well lived if I've touched people, even in the most ways that I would never know if they hadn't come out and told me. If I just could continue that without having a main goal and just touching people along the way or giving information, and I don't think that needs to be a goal even. I think it needs to be a matter of living your life honestly, knowing you have something to offer, putting it out there, and if it's of value to people, that's awesome. That's great. It's wonderful. I think basically, so what I'm saying is pretty much beyond career or anything, that's what I'd like to think my life is about. So to say, oh, well, I want people to think, like, here's what I would love as a legacy. I don't know if I could be very specific about that. First of all, I can't project that far in the future because I'm on my journey now going towards the 15 years. And I think part of that journey 15 years in the future is for me to be moment to moment now, to be very present. Because if I'm thinking 15 years ahead, what I would like to have done, for me, maybe it's too premeditated. Maybe I don't need a goal to work towards, but just getting feedback along the way of how I'm living my life may be good enough. And who knows where it takes me, where it takes me as far as goals go for what I leave as a legacy. But I think it's just important. The information comes in moment to moment, and I'm not sure what that would be. I guess that's the short answer to it all. Is like I really don't know. All I know is I'm enjoying the process now, and it feels right. It feels right. Yeah, and I could base that off of just feedback. I think it feels right. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't answer it. Really?
No, I mean, I think you totally answered it. You're, like a human being's journey, right?
Yeah.
Going back to Joseph Campbell, right? Like a hero's journey, right?
The hero's journey.
It's like you can have. In Hollywood, you have a certain way of writing, right? You can either have the Hollywood system or an independent film, or character-driven or plot-driven, right? And plot-driven is already set out. Character-driven, you have no idea where it's going to go,
exactly,
right? And I believe that you're on the character-driven journey, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, on a side note, you're saying that so many people were contacting you that didn't know you, but they ended up coming and visit you, right?
Yeah.
You would not believe the amount of people at auditions, where, January is like super busy on auditions, right? And, a whole room full of like casting Asians in the cast. And they were like, did you hear what happened, Clint? I'm like, yeah, dude, what just happened? Like the whole room is just buzzing Clint Jung, right? And it was one of those amazing things where like, I took a step back, while we were talking about that, and I just thought, this whole room has been touched by Clint.
Yeah.
Blows my mind.
Thank you for even letting me know that, because it blows my mind too. And I think for me, it's a beautiful thing, because again, that's what. Hopefully the impression is a good one. Hopefully you take something good, whoever it is. Because I've heard a lot of that too from, like I said, I've had young Asian actors too, come by here that don't know me well even, but they just wanted to come and give support and tell me that, how they know me and everything else. And, well, now they're friends, of course. But, yeah, I think that's all a part of that life well lived, I think, like, I'm not really seeking a whole lot more than that, I don't know. Yeah.
Wow. Not seeking, that's great. I love that. Yeah. Not seeking a whole lot more than that. It's really just, it really just goes back to, the whole idea of being in the moment and appreciating what is right in front of you, and sort of not having this ulterior motive of wanting to get something despite everything, and have, despite what's in the way, you've got to like go for that, right? It's crazy, there are people who are that driven, and I think there's a similarity between us where I don't get like excited about race cars, But what I do get excited about is, traveling, or, obviously my family, or just really experiencing life. It's funny. There was this actor who I saw years ago, and I just thought, fuck, I got to go ask this guy a question, and I asked him, I go, I forget his name, but I go, what kind of suggestions would you offer? And he said, what have you done? And I go, oh, well, I've done this show. He's like, I'm not talking about acting. After 3 times of that, it took me a little while to understand where he's getting at, right? I realized that he was like, listen, man, he basically pointed out, he goes, just enjoy your life, man.
Yeah.
Things will come when they come. Just enjoy your life, right?
Yeah.
And, and you might know this, but when you're overly obsessed about something, about driven, right? It becomes a challenge to break apart, because whether it's a fear of like the scarcity of roles, I don't want to be that person that says, yes, there's certain races or minorities put into a box, but in reality there is that sort of like way of thinking. And please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'd love to hear your, thoughts about this. But like, there are boxes that each person is put in, and that might be okay, but the way I see it is that it's not just a box, it's how big the box is, right? So right now, like the biggest box could be, let's say, Caucasian, right? And then next would be African American. And then, going down the line to Asian, it's a pretty small box. The question is, like, how many people that are in Asian descent are going to take that step to enlarge in that box, to widen that box, to widen that scope, to open up the vacuum for more opportunity, not just for now, but for the future. I mean, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, so I've been in this for long enough to see that I understand the concern, but my gosh, the improvement has been 100-fold. So, Asian American actors, I understand, because now we have so much information, and I understand the concern, but I hate to say it, but like if they knew it like 20 some odd years ago, they would, but then again, there weren't as many Asians acting. I think it's more acceptable now for them to get into the art professions, because parents are just, loosened up. But
well, they saw the first check first, and they go, "Whoa, okay, cool, go for it."
As far as like taking, I think just enlarge it, to enlarge that box, or to enlarge that scope of Asians in the industry. I just think everybody's job, duty should be just go out there and book jobs and work, because people like Constance Wu, she's very vocal and very, very smart. The way she speaks, and how she, people like that are all, that's always welcome. They're doing a lot, but I think anybody that's on TV, like there's so many great Asian actors, like Daniel and all those, they're producing now, and stuff like that. So I think it's happening. It's just that it's probably seems to most that it's not happening fast enough. But I took it from when I started, it's night and day, And the good thing is it's not going backwards. It's just not happening fast enough. It seems like it's not happening fast enough. And if you want to get put here, my thing is, if you want to get put in if that's not a bad thing. You get, you're talking about the minority box, though. I'm just talking about like in general. If you want to be typecast as that, Asian bad guy, the scholarly, you are only so lucky to be typecast, You just work. And from that point on, you could broaden your horizon. You could show them you do other things, but, stop complaining about getting pigeonholed, You're lucky that they see you as a certain way. because you could make changes from working in that genre or that, that casting.
It's interesting because as an artist, right, you want to be as free as possible. It's a dimension of categories. A teacher actually told this to me. She drew a circle, and she put one line down the circle, and she's that's you, and she's you're only 1% of 99%, right? And which was a huge eye opening, and I just thought, okay. Got it. Got it. We have different facets of our heart, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? You could write a life-changing book that would shift so many lives, you know, or something like that. But yeah, it just comes down to coming back to becoming an extraordinary human being, like yourself. You are, man. I'm not honestly, I'm not even kissing ass, man, because watching, in the room that day, during that audition, watching the room just buzz with your name, just shot me back to, I mean, full circle here, but shot me back to the day, I met you, and just thought, wow, this is bigger than what we can even comprehend right now. You know? Yeah,
to me, that's a life well lived, that's happening,
Yeah,
it is. It's what.
Clint, what would you like to say to everybody out there?
Oh, geez. Oh, I really don't know, because I've really talked myself out this podcast. It's great though. It's good. It kind of took on a life of its own, and I dig that. I dig that free form style, and I get nervous about that because I don't know where it's going sometimes, and how it's going to be. But I think, I had a great time. I don't know. I think it's about attitude in life, and I do understand. It's easy for me to say that sometimes, attitude of gratitude, because I've been fortunate enough to not have to deal with things I have to also understand that there's people that deal with depression and things like that, which is a completely different realm. I've had partners that have had to deal with it, so I've had to learn about it, and you can't really, hearing about it isn't living it, so I understand, and I try to have the utmost empathy and compassion. But if there's any way you could break through the dark cloud and just have that attitude of gratitude and see the silver lining, then it's just so much more beneficial to a enjoyable, happy life.
Wow, Clint, man. Thank you, dude. Thank you, man. That was amazing. Thank you so much, man.